Start. MTC 2119, Exercise 1. Almost all major ethical theories in Western philosophy implicate the emotions in one way or another. In some of these theories, emotions are essential to morality, and in others they are not. But, even those authors who deny that emotions are essential usually find a place for them in moral psychology. This is true even for Kant, who is notorious for arguing that morality depends on reason rather than sentiment. In Kant's system, reason tells us that we follow the moral law, but acting from the moral law begins with respect for the law, which is constituted by respect for persons, which is a natural consequence of recognizing the dignity of each person as a law-governed agent. In addition to respect, Kant claims that moral judgments are accompanied by moral feelings. It is difficult to find a philosopher who does not think emotions are important to morality. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 2119, Exercise 2. One factor that may partially explain the rise of philosophy among the Greeks may lie in the special characteristics of Greek religion and mythology. In Greek culture, just as in India and China, religion and poetry existed long before philosophy as a recognizable activity. Educated Greeks absorbed religion not only through cultic worship but also through the Homeric epic poems and later in the tragedies of such playwrights as Aeschylus and Sophocles. Aeschylus, Sophocles. Greek religion as presented in these poetic forms embodies many tensions and sometimes seems to present outright contradictions. The gods are presented as immortal and noble, to be worshipped and honored, but they are also described as engaging in behavior that seems far from honorable. To a thoughtful person, Greek religion left many questions about the nature of the gods and their relation to the world unanswered, and this perhaps contributed to the growth of philosophical reflection as well. Certainly from the earliest period, we see Greek philosophers questioning and correcting the religious traditions handed down to them. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 2119, Exercise 3. The place of women in Aboriginal culture has been interpreted in many different ways. Ethnocentric European travelers mistakenly described these women as degraded and passive servants of the men. The seemingly sharp gender divisions in the activity spheres of Aboriginal society made it difficult for anthropologists to obtain a balanced picture. Early anthropologists were mostly men who necessarily observed male culture and talked to male informants. These male anthropologists were also quite comfortable with the male superiority view because it corresponded closely to their own Victorian biases. Victorian anthropologists considered women in general to be spiritually inferior and even described them as profane, whereas men were seen as sacred. More recent fieldwork by female anthropologists working with Aboriginal women challenged the picture by showing that these women have a very active secret ritual life and exercise considerable autonomy in domestic affairs. MTC. Good job. Let's start. MTC 2119, Exercise 4. Heidegger used the term Dasein, being there for the being that exists. Heidegger Dasein. He rejected the idea that there is an external world separate from a conscious observer. Instead, he developed a phenomenological view, in which our understanding of things is always in relation to ourselves. For example, if you put on a jumper, it is because the jumper will keep you warm, or you think it will look good on you. It is not because the jumper is made of twisted yarn and is a few millimeters thick. This applies to knowledge, too. We might read a book about politics because it interests us, or because understanding politics helps us make sense of what we see happening around us. We see it in terms of a tool, or satisfying a need. Heidegger saw the Dasein, principally the human being, as completely immersed in and part of the world that defines it. Heidegger, Dasein. No separation between consciousness and environment is possible. Being there means that there our context is the defining aspect of being. We are not shut off from the world in an enclosed mind, which Heidegger calls the cabinet of consciousness. Heidegger. MTC. Good job.